I remember when I met her. It's just, she was driving, I was living in my place, and it was a renovated barn studio type thing in this town, and she'd driven by this place all the time, but I put a sign up, and she saw the sign, Astrology. Said, oh my goodness, Astrology right here. So she just parked the car, drove in, and came in. And I got to talk to you. I've always been interested. What are you doing? What are you doing? And it was almost love at first sight. She was really glad, not in a partnership way, but she was really glad to learn, and she became my client and my student, and she stayed my student, went to all my classes, and now is just more of a friend, but she came in and was really glad to be learning this. She's really loved to learn astrology. But the instinct in the moment, and one of the first times I thought, oh, I got to stop out, come in, relate, respond. And yeah, the odd thing was she was much more well off than I was. I live in very simple studio type lofts and stuff, but we still got along really well. Okay, so just this story just made me think of it. Her transit chart. So this is the transit chart where the planets are put around it for where they are now. Saturn up top with Pluto up in Capricorn. For this January, Saturn and Pluto conjunct, right? 23 degrees. It's going to be 23, 24 degrees. So he's squaring my sun. But anyways, it's going to be happening up in her 10th house. Saturn up there. So like, oh, that's high profile. So we just see it. And you get to know where the planets are. Neptune's in Pisces, middle of Pisces. It's not really hitting anything in her chart. It may come up in a few years to hit the Neptune. It's going to come up in a few years to hit the Mars. So I'm just working the transits, just looking at the chart and knowing where they are. We got the Saturn, we got the Neptune, we got the Pluto. Uranus is going through Aries. Just got into Taurus. And so she's already had the Uranus over the ascendant and come down to the ascendant. This is part of living in two worlds, having the place in the States down in Sedona and that place up here. It's just, it was a new start. So like the Uranus is in Taurus, it's not really hitting anything. If anything, it may oppose the Uranus, but it's going to come up and conjunct the moon, meaning more independence. Okay, so that's Uranus. It's only 7 years in a sign. So 1 year in, that's within 5 years, that's coming up. So, okay, we haven't worked it. We're just looking at different pieces now. And yeah, and Jupiter's just going into Capricorn too. So we have Jupiter, Saturn, all up in Capricorn. The sun's going to be there. Everything's piled up in Capricorn this winter. So it's November, we're already getting snow today or yesterday. But the Saturn's high profile in her chart. Okay, so this is, you can see this. Now we want to go look at the Saturn, look at the cycles a little bit better to get into this a little more deeply. So you know that she's supposed to be working. She's at her peak in what she's doing. That's building up the career and things. It's been squaring her sun, the Saturn, Pluto. The Uranus, fortunately, Uranus, when it went over this and it opposed to Venus, it's finished with that shock. The Saturn, Pluto is coming up, and it's past the Venus. It's the Saturn, Pluto is coming up. It's going to be pretty close to the ascendant. It's a squaring the ascendant, descendant. And okay, so let's just follow this through a little bit. There's the chart. Okay, here we go. I mean, you can see where Saturn rounds, such as Saturn opposed moon every 7-8 years. When Saturn squares, conjuncts, or opposes itself, is also going to be hitting the moon. That's going to magnify the Saturn aspects to itself when we go around. I love this, our Saturn graph, because it gives us this. We have, here's the position of Saturn in Scorpio. And we can see the phases as it goes. It starts in functional growth, and it goes around to growth and influence personally. You see the phases of Saturn going through the quadrants of the houses. You see the signs it's going through. But it also gives you the dates for things as they're going along in the chart. So you can look and see, and you know exactly what has happened. That's actually like most of us, when I was 17, this happened. When I was 20, this happened. Boy, it takes a bit of work to remember and get the year. What year was that? Or well, it must have been. Let me think. And so in astrology, we do the work to get the exact timings. We have to work to remember the age that's happening at. That's the Saturn to itself. But we're really working with the years and the events that happened, and we're kind of merging the ideas of here's your chart, here's what's unfolding, what's happening in the world at that time, what were you doing at that time, what were you doing when Kennedy died, or what were you doing when, different things happen. All right, so where were you the day man landed on the moon? Just all kinds of things. We have the events to certain times, history, and we have our experience. We remember by the age we were, but we don't usually, you have to work to get your calendar in order to see the dates, to integrate your dates to the events in the world at the right times and have this together. That's really clear thinking. That allows for clear thinking. So her Saturn starts off in the seventh house. It goes up through so she's born, Saturn's above the horizon. So she's been in the family, taken around, built up a lot. By the time she gets to school, 4 or 5 years, she's out of the house. She's got a certain status, certain authority. Her Saturn's building up. Or she's having to get out there anyways, even though the Saturn moon was challenging. It still was this outer functional world. It wasn't until 68, 69, Saturn opposes, then Saturn comes along, as it goes into Aries, it's going to oppose her sun. It's going to oppose her sun, then her Venus, and then hit her ascendant. So as things cave in, as the old world ends with Saturn being above the horizon, that's going to be a really difficult time making the adjustment for a Taurus moon to make adjustment, but it's going to make, it's pressure, it's going to be difficult circumstances for the Libra. I'm not where I belong. I'm not liked. I'm not there. I'm not what I want. This is a Saturn going to 12. This would have been happening as she was about, it would have started 67, 68. So she would have only been 12, 13 years old till about 15. And by the time it gets to 15, 68, actually 13, it hits the ascendant, 13, 14, it hits the ascendant. So this early pubescent time, early time was really difficult coming into teenagehood, most likely, if I'm imagining, probably with that difficulty going on there, she probably had her period and had to come in through all these things like that. Probably nobody told her anything about it. She probably had to figure it out herself. That's a difficult thing. But there certainly wasn't support in those very formative years. And there would have been a lot of insecurity from the Saturn opposing the Sun, then opposing the Venus. She wouldn't have liked herself or thought she was beautiful, or she would have been feeling really hemmed in. For a 12, 13-year-old person, that means she's not integrating that well into the social community or at home, or some problems were there. It could just be problems with that. I don't know specifically, but enough to be able to ask questions and walk in and get someone's attention to talk to them. And then the identity crisis would come at 13, 14, and she's going to feel, I don't belong to this family, I don't fit in here, she's going to feel really associated. But it's the beginning of the personal growth phase. So you don't fit in. You're used to thinking the old world is going this way, but you're growing in new ways. This is why it's good to be in school, and you're going through the personal growth in this Saturn in this first quadrant. But the identity crisis was there. So those were really difficult, depressing years, 12, 13, 14. So you add that to how old someone is, what was going on at the times. You say, wow, if she had got through school, that was a great accomplishment. If she was getting her marks, that was a great accomplishment. There were complications. She wouldn't be happy. She wouldn't have been socially fitting in or feeling, dating or relating. That would have been really much more difficult at that time. It's young, but still, the sensitivities come in, how you fit in. So this set her into a world of personal insecurity, which is Saturn on the ascendant. And when it opposes, it's buys your time. There's nothing you can do at that age. There's not much you can do anyway. So it probably could have been a couple of difficult years, or a couple of problems with dad or with authority or whatever. But then she had to start figuring for herself. And then being in school, it's still school years. She's still too young. So this was going through school. And once she got through the first part, once she got past 14, 15, she got through that, and she'd be working to get through school. And then the Saturn's going down. She's studying personal growth. By the time Saturn hits her IC, you know what you don't want. You know, you don't know what you want, but you know you don't want to put it. So by 75, she's 20. By the time she's 20, really probably started with 18, 19, she knew she didn't want to be in the, stick around the family she was in. She knew she didn't want to put up with the difficulty she had. She knows she want to get, she's been studying, she knows she wants to get away from the helm, get away from things. And so most likely around this time, she might, I don't know when she got married, but this set the theme to get married, to get out of the house. Whether it happened here or a little bit later, this was still in that point. I don't fit in. What am I doing here? Like, I gotta get it. Like, so, but the difficulty with that necessity is that below, it questions how valuable a choice one would make. I gotta do this, I gotta do this, so I get out. And then, oh, what, you went from the frying pan into a fire, into a world of your own making, seemingly. So this goes along. It's not till, and then Saturn gets through the growth and capacity. So probably having the kids, they have the kids, having to take care of the kids in another relationship that's not like the one she was grew up from, but it's parallel in another way. She wasn't being supported of things that we expected. It was too narrow for her. And by the time Saturn hit her sun, 1976. So, is that right? 1 second. No, by the time Saturn hit her sun, sorry, that's the wrong date. Okay, that can't be right. That's got to be, there's got to be 82. That's got to be about 81, 80, 81. So, okay, there's two mistakes in this chart. This is one of them. Just gonna take this out. Okay. Okay, I take that out, and I think there's 1 second. There's another one. I'm just gonna take out too while we're working on this. And the other one is here. It's in the wrong place. It's not wrong though. It's just in the wrong place. I'll just put the mark. I'll still mark it up. There. Okay, good. Okay, just so I don't forget. Okay, now, so at this point, well, I'll just go to here. I just take my for this. The 19. Yes, I remember that 80, 81 with the Saturn wanted to leave at the end of 80. Would have been conjuncting her sun by the beginning of 81 and then the end of 81. So this was 81. It would hit the descendant in 82, and then there's the 82, and then it conjuncted the Saturn in 84. Okay, so this is 81 to 84. A really intense time for the planets. Were all piled up in that Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius. All the planets were piled up on the setting side. But she would have made her decision in 81 what she wanted to do. Saturn's under, and I know what I don't want. That happened on the IC. I got to make some decisions. But how do I get out of it? What am I doing? How am I going to chase things? So at this point, she would have known